Pure Fiction is the newest endgame content in Honkai Star Rail, and with this comes the old age question: who's the best unit? Let's put together a tier list and see who is in the S tier. Firstly, I am evaluating their performances within Pure Fiction. Secondly, none of the positions are being determined solely based on my opinion. I may have never talked about it, but I'm a software engineer and I've built a system that allows analyzing information from the matches of different players. Specifically, I've analyzed 71,055 matches before compiling this list, and most of the data contain matches from the North American and Asian servers. To make it easier to compare characters, I'll break down into 3 groups, one from sustain, another for support, and finally one for DPS. And in each list will be composed of 5 tiers. D tier is units that will harm your composition and avoid the hell out of it. C tier, they are underwhelming characters that will make your life harder. B tier is composed with decent units, but with clearer flaws than me when I go to a psychologist. A tier is composed with good characters that will help a lot of your team and has little flaws. Finally, S tier, they are the carries. They put your shitty units in their pockets and guarantee a good run. Starting with sustain, let's discuss our Trailblazer. The Trailblazer has the worst performance among all sustain characters in the game. Although his kits include 2 ways to do area damage with his ultimate and basic attack, at the end of the day, he fails to provide something that puts him closer to a support role and enhances the damage output of his composition. In most of the teams, he's used as a breaker, but with so many fire units good at breaking weaknesses, he's just not that useful. Because of this, he's in the C tier. Gepard also falls into the C tier for basically the same reasons as the Trailblazer and having a performance similar to him. His kit is deeply focused on being a tank and providing shields to the team. Besides that, his kit is quite limited, which in Pure Fiction becomes a detriment as it cannot assist in damage output. Natasha has a slightly better performance than Gepard and Trailblazer. The main difference is her ability to provide healing, which can be impactful if a fragile character takes high damage. In contents like Pure Fiction, where there are waves and waves of opponents, being able to heal makes a huge difference. C tier. March is also in the C tier and her performance is close to Natasha's. Her positive aspects include the ice element turn delay after breaking a weakness and her ultimate, which also has a chance to delay her opponents. Additionally, her shield provides cleans, and at E6 there is a small heal. Lynx is one of the most recent sustain units. Her kit is quite simple, with a small buff to HP and both instant and continuous healing. At E0 she outperforms Natasha, however there are some limits to her kit. Her cleans is restricted to her ultimate, and her best performance is at E6 when she gets some crazy boost to the survival response. Because of this, she's in the C tier. Bailu was our first 5-star healing unit, and the time was clearly harsh for her. Her kit is extremely limited. Although she has a good heal in her skill and ultimate, her kit lacks cleans and auto healing, which has become a standard among healers. And to make matters worse, her skill is random, making it really difficult to make the most out of her. She still has a slightly superior performance, hence she's in the B tier, but for a 5-star, unfortunately she doesn't offer much. Now we have 3 sustain units left: Luocha, HuoHuo, and Xuan, and in this case, I won't strictly follow the data. If I look purely at the numbers, Luocha should be S tier, leading the best performance in Pure Fiction. However, my opinion is that he is an A tier. Luocha has auto healing and cleans in his skill, removes buffs in his ultimate, and has a good weakness break. Another point is that he can constantly deal damage without having to heal all the time. However, he doesn't offer any buffs to the team, and his damage is not that high. Still, he was used mostly in the first stage of Pure Fiction to deal with weak opponents, giving him a performance above the benchmark. Looking him in isolation, he could be an S tier, but when comparing his kit to future possibilities, he's better positioned in the A tier. The first S tier is HuoHuo. In addition to a good healing sustain, she excels at removing the buffs. Her ultimate is crucial for Pure Fiction, providing energy to allies and adding attack buff. Although it's a small increase, equivalent to a basic attack, for Pure Fiction it is enough to make a difference. Her partner in the S tier is Xuan. Apart from benefiting from being quantum, making her suitable for the mono quantum compositions, one of the most used compositions in both Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction. What really sets her apart is her extremely versatile kit. She offers damage reduction, protection against the buffs, and high resistance. Her skill not only protects the team by absorbing part of the damage, but also provides more max HP and crit rate. She is extremely flexible and enhances the power of her allies. Her only weakness is the lack of healing. Even though it exists in her ultimate, it might not be enough. debuff, still S tier. Moving on to supports, those whose role is to debuff or buff, and starting with HuoHuo, well, despite being a key PC mod in Quantum and having some of the strongest debuffs in the game, for pure fiction, her performance has been poor, mainly due to her kit. Her effects are excellent for bringing down bosses. However, as they are all single target, they have little or no effect against waves and waves of opponents. Because of this, she's in the B tier. Asta is perhaps a more complex character to analyze. Her data is more extensive. In her E0 version, unfortunately, she hasn't had a good performance in pure fiction. Although she has a kit very suitable for this playstyle with area damage, attack and speed buffs, she ends up being dependent on maintaining her stacks, which is really difficult at E0. However, her E6 version has been very good. After she managed to maintain more consistency in her stacks, her performance improved significantly. If you're purely looking at numbers, she should be in the B tier. However, if you're looking to build a team for pure fiction, a well-invested Asta is worthy of the A tier. Yukong has the same problems as HuoHuo. Her gameplay is extremely focused on battle with few opponents. However, her roaring bowstrings, especially at E6, managed to have more stacks, allowing her buffs to last longer. Moreover, her buffs are massive. Because of this, she's at the B tier. Hanya is a unique unit. Being physical, she performed extremely well in pure fiction, especially when paired with her Genty. However, analyzing her in isolation, she has some positive and negative elements. Her skill applies burden that allows her allies to recover skill points. That is essential for her DPSs to spam their skills, accelerating the game significantly. On the other hand, her buffs, like her ultimate, are entirely single target. If you're playing with only one DPS, that's great. However, it is lacking when there is another sub DPS in the team that could also have a great impact in the game. Because of this, she's in the low A tier. Pela is in the middle of A tier, especially when paired with Jingliu. She wreaks havoc. Her E4 makes her skill reduce ice resistance, enhancing the attack of her DPS. In addition, her ultimate inflicts exposed, which decreases the defense of all opponents, being an important debuff in area. Because of this, she's in the A tier. Tingyun is one of the best supports in any case, but in pure fiction she shines. Her skill offers more attack and a new instance of damage. Her ultimate increases her allies' damage and recovers energy, a perfect combination for any DPS that constantly uses their ultimate. Pair her with Argenti or Biptolune and you will crush pure fiction. Because of this, she's at the top of A tier. Entering S tier territory, we have Bronya. She provides a significant attack boost, damage boost, crit rate, crit damage, and also accelerates your team. Unfortunately, she hasn't had such an impactful result, but analyzing the type of teams she was part of makes it really clear. She has been used as a solution for any type of team, but even being an S tier, she's no Noah's Ark to carry so many animals. Her main function, especially in a game mode with limited number of turns, is to accelerate a character with AoE so they can clear the field quickly. Because of this, she's in the S tier. Now, good luck trying to get her. And the most popular character since the launch of pure fiction, and with the best performance, Ruan Mei. Firstly, her buff is so strong that even in teams that don't use weakness break much, she has been impactful. She's mostly used alongside Jingliu in full ice teams. Her skill increases weakness breaking efficiency, essential to extract the maximum possible damage, but besides that, she offers more damage percentage. This buff will last for 3 turns and apply to all allies. This is the main reason why she has a better performance than Bronya, who can only buff 1 DPS at a time. Her ultimate offers more resistance penetration, and her talent gives more speed whenever an ally breaks an opponent's weakness. She simply has a perfect kit for those who need to do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. Moving on to DPSs, let's start with Dr. Ratio. Unfortunately, even though he has been released for some time, as I'm collecting information from the beginning of Pure Fiction, he has been greatly affected by the lack of matches. However, even with limited information, it is clear that he is in the C tier. Unfortunately, he's purely focused on single target damage, and although his destructive power is high, especially when he's supported by a good debuffer, his kit only allows him to attack once per turn, and even with his ultimate, his follow-up is not enough to handle hordes of opponents. In the last place, there is Yanqing. Seriously, a 5-star character is below all the others. His performance is deplorable. Obviously, his problem is similar to Dr. Ratio's. Being a hunt character and without a kit that allows him to clear his opponents, he has no impact in this type of gameplay. D tier. tier. The next two are basically tied, Arlan and Trailblazer Physical. Both are in the D tier. They are slightly better than Yanqing because they can deal a bit of area damage, however, their kits are simple and outdated. They simply cannot keep up with this type of content. Sushang Dan Heng are two good 4-star characters that will shine in any other content. However, in pure fiction, they cannot showcase their best. Being from the hunt path, they focus on high single target damage, which is not utilized in these conditions at all. So, both are in the D tier. And to close the D tier, there is another duo, Hook and Luka. Both focus on damage over time, which is the type of gameplay already hindered in the pure fiction, due to the need to wait for the end of the turn. To make matters worse, both have kits focused on single target damage, with difficulty applying their damage over time stacks to multiple targets. Moving more towards the middle of the list, the C tier is populated by Serval and Guinaifen. Both have damage over time mechanics and kits capable of surviving well in pure fiction. However, they are situational. They need to be with other characters who know how to make good use of their damage over time. Furthermore, Serval's kit is not against all of her opponents. It's a basic attack with splash damage, worsening her performance in applying more stacks. Overall, the performance is not bad, just underwhelming. C tier, Qingque. Well, Qingque is difficult. She's by no means bad in pure fiction. She's a character with more than enough damage. However, her high dependency on luck and possibly a very high skill point consumption puts her in an intermediate position within the B tier. In terms of numbers, Clara should be in the B tier. However, I believe it is for reasons similar to Qingque. She has a kit that should allow her to easily clear pure fiction, since she can act every time she is hit by an enemy. However, it depends on being the target of damage. Also, for her to deal area damage, her ultimate needs to be up, and to have her ultimate up most of the time, she needs to take damage. There are many possibilities that can go out of your control, and I imagine that this led to her low performance. However, in my opinion, she's not in the B tier. If you know how to play around her aggro, she's in the A tier. She has the right tools, but it's not easy to apply them. Sampo has a mediocre performance. In theory, his kit is interesting for pure fiction. His skill is kind of an area attack, although random, and his ultimate is a pure AoE. However, his damage overall is low, and in most teams he's used for breaking weaknesses. The issue is that with so many opponents on the field, it is difficult to break weaknesses with a random attack. To make matters worse, he only had one stage where there was wind weakness, greatly limiting his use. For now, he's in the B tier to be reviewed in the future. Xueyi is also in the B tier. In addition to a mediocre performance, she also had one of the lowest peak rates among all characters. Her kit is quite limiting. Xueyi's skill is a blast attack, but her ultimate is a single target. Even her follow-up is restricted, taking time to charge and hitting only 3 random opponents. Her best performance was in teams where she acted as a sub DPS for Seele, who was responsible for breaking weaknesses, while Xueyi did her follow-up. This is going to hurt a lot of people. I already feel the comments on this video. However, let's rip off this band-aid. In the B tier is Kafka. B tier. Hey, it's not just me. Look at these numbers. Look here. On paper, Kafka, along with a damage over time team, should be able to finish pure fiction without major hardships. Even though damage over time depends on turn changes, she can use her skill to trigger the already applied damage over time again. In addition, her ultimate is a powerful AoE. So what puts her in this position? My hypothesis is that she was mainly used in the last stage, where she had to face Svara, who's not a simple boss at all, deeply hindering her performance. Anyway, for now I'll keep her in the A tier for review after the next stage of pure fiction. After that, we have Topaz, who suffers from the same problems as all Hunt characters. Her only improvement is the presence of Nambi, which helps her have more turns, as he'll act on his own turn and when triggered again in her ultimate. Moreover, she can act well as a buffer for characters who use follow-up, such as Jingliu and Clara. Because of this, she's in the B tier. Welt, in general, is not a very popular character. His playstyle is a mix of a DPS with a debuffer. Because of this, he doesn't have much place. Although his kit allows for an area attack, they are not very strong, and his debuffs, such as slowness, are not very useful for the team in this type of content, although it increases his damage. He has many being used as a second DPS in teams with Lynx. Due to his average performance, he is in the B tier. Seele and Lynx, although so different from each other, they are both basically tied in their performance. Seele is the only Hunt character that can work in pure fiction. Her ability to act more than once per turn when she can defeat an opponent is essential for this mode. In addition, she has high damage, which allows allows her to easily take down bosses. On the other hand, Himeko is a destruction character with a very high area damage, but also has a high skill point consumption, usually causing the team to revolve around him to replenish the consumed points. Both are in the beginning of the A tier. Now, we finally have the moment for the Hero Edition characters to celebrate. Both Yuan and Himeko are very good for pure fiction. As expected, area damage allows them to clear the field without any hardship, especially Himeko with Hell Icon, which has a very high impact throughout the match. Obviously, by nature, they are not the strongest, but they can have very good performances, so they are in the A tier. To close the A tier, there is another duo, this time from the Destruction Path, Blade and Jingliu. Blade has a kit that requires few skill points, all his attacks are area based, and he is very tanky, making him excellent for surviving the various hordes of opponents. On the other hand, Jingliu, being the most popular DPS, has the highest damage in the game, and although her skill starts as a single target, he can advance to become a blast attack. Because of this, her team mostly includes Bronya to accelerate her turn and quickly enter her enhanced mode. The surprise that no one expected but fit perfectly in the pure fiction was Harta. In any other game mode, she's terrible. However, in situations where she can face various weak mobs one after the other, she shines. In pure fiction, you can constantly trigger her follow-up, being a constant source of damage and quickly clearing the field. That's why she's in the S tier. To end this list, Argenti is in the first place in the S tier. Being the most recent Hero Edition character, his kit is full of area damage, fitting perfectly this game mode. Especially his ultimate. It allows him to use only half of his energy to perform a powerful AoE, letting him constantly clear the field. Well, I believe there are many points to improve, especially with the information from the upcoming stages. We will have more visibility into the character's long-term performance. But until then, that's it. Let me know in the comments what you think, and as always, subscribe.
It's that time again to get busy with it. Best go find your friends and get jiggy.